Hello to my channel. My name is Onem. I'm a project manager and business solutions consultant. On this channel, we talk about project management, productivity, and leveraging technology for your business and career. Today, we're going to be talking about Monday.com. Monday.com is a work management or project management software that is used for different use cases. Today, I'll be talking about it in terms of using it for a simple project. If you're a new project manager or if you're someone that hasn't tried the software before, then you should watch this video to the end. To download Monday.com, go to the website at Monday.com. Monday is, of course, the day of the week, Monday. As I said before, it's a work management platform, so you can use it for different things, and you can see it all written down here. So when you want to start on the platform, you can check whichever of these tasks or work you want to use Monday.com for. In this case, we can say project management, we can say sales and CRM, we can say task management or HR, whatever you want to use it for, and then you get started by clicking on this button. The pricing structure of Monday.com is from a free tier all the way to an enterprise plan. The free tier gives you free forever according to Monday.com, and you get 2 seats for that, as well as other features as well. If you want to upgrade, you can do so. You can also try the other plans for free and see if it's something you're interested in before you go ahead to pay. So let's go ahead to see what Monday.com has to offer. After you're done with the sign up and setup, you come to this interface where, of course, it welcomes you. Good morning, Sandra. And this is your home page for everything you're going to be doing on Monday.com. On the left-hand pane, you can see that there are titles for workspaces. You can create different workspaces on Monday.com. On the right-hand side, you have tips that you can use to explore templates, the help center, and getting started if you want some inspiration on how to use Monday.com. And on the top right-hand corner, you can see your name and everything that you can use to apply settings to how you want to work with Monday.com. You can see your profile, you can import data, and every other thing that you see here. We're not going to go through all of that because I want to keep the video short and just do a simple demo for Monday.com. The first thing we have to do is create a new workspace. I already have mine created, but if you don't, you can go ahead to click on the 3 ellipses that you have here to add a new workspace. For you, you might see a button to add one. I already have a workspace, so that option is not available for me anymore. So I click on the ellipses and then I click on add new workspace. So we're going to go ahead to do that just so that you can understand how to create it. When I click on that button, it gives me an opportunity to put in my workspace name. Let's assume that the workspace is my organization or my business. So I'm going to go ahead to say Lily and Sam events. Okay. You can determine what privacy it's going to be, if you want it open or you want it closed. For now, we can leave it open and then we add the workspace. That's how simple it is. You now arrive on this interface. You can go ahead to change the cover, maybe to your logo or however you want it. But for now, that's out of scope for what we want to discuss today. Now that we've created our workspace, we can start the project. To start a new project, we have to create a board. To do so, we can add from templates or we can start from scratch. If you want to use Monday.com templates and you click on that button, you will see a lot of options available to you for different types of projects. If you want a marketing project, for instance, you see that there are options for email marketing, communications and PR, product marketing launch, and a lot more. For this particular video, we're going to use our own options instead of using a template. To do so, we can either start from scratch or we can use the plus button just beneath our workspace and beside the search bar. If we click on that, we can see options available to add to our workspace. It can be a new board, a new document, dashboard, choose from templates as we see again, import data. You can import data from Excel, Google, Asana, Trello, Basecamp, and a lot more. You can also include something from an app, a new form, or a new folder. In this case, we're going to go for a new board. You can give the board a name. Let's say that we have a conference coming up. So we say PM conference that this event company is taking care of. We can make a particular board private. We can keep it as the main board, or we can make it shareable. Main means it's visible to everyone in this account. We can select how we're going to manage our board. So what do we want the different items to be called? So if there are different tasks that we're doing as part of our project, what do we want them to be called? Are they campaigns, budgets, leads, and all of that? We're going to keep it simple and just choose tasks, and then we'll go ahead to create board by clicking on the create board button. What will happen is that it's going to create our board with some options available. Some of those options are that you can create a new task, you can search, you can filter by person, and all the options you have here. You also have a list of items that have been created. So all of them are grouped under particular group titles. This particular group has 3 tasks available by default. We can always go ahead to change and edit all of this, which is what we're going to do now. Since this is an event, we called it the PM conference. We're going to be adding some items that we want to do as part of this conference. To keep things simple, we're going to make the group titles pre-event, during event, and post-event. Let's go ahead to do that. So I've included pre-event and during event. Only 2 groups were made available. So for me to be able to put post-event, I'm going to add a new group using this button right here with the plus sign. Clicking on it will open a new group. I'll give you an opportunity to edit it. So I go to post-event. So these are my groups available. There are items or tasks I want to do pre-event, during the event, and the post-event. To edit this, I just click once into it. I can remove whatever is inside of it. So part of the things I want to do during the pre-event, one of them will be to select the date of the event, of course, so we know when to hold the event. Another item I might be interested in is with the venue. I'm just going to call it venue. Yet another item is food. Yet another item is printing. So you can add whatever you want according to what your particular event is going to be, or whatever your project is going to be. In this case, I have date, venue, food, printing. For during the event, I have different things I want to do as well as part of my tasks. So I'm going to say security. I'm going to say crowd control. I want it to be different. I'm going to say speaker. And then these are the tasks that are available to me. Once I click out of it, you see that it gives me an opportunity to add a new task to that particular group. So I can go ahead to add any task I want for that particular group. So now that we've added a few of our tasks, what are the other columns that we have available? The next column that we have here by default is a start conversation column. The start conversation column gives people an opportunity to talk about whatever particular task in that role is. So for this select date column, I want to write an update. So the update I want to give is that we have to consider a public holiday so everyone is available. So this is something we may need to tell the clients that they should consider booking their event or scheduling their event for a public holiday so everyone, the speakers and the guests, are available. As you can see, I am the one that has put in that comment. It's showing that the comment was just put now. Other things I can do for that particular role is add a file. To do so, I click on the file tab and I can add a file using this button here or the one at the bottom, and I can add the file from my computer. What I can add here is, say, maybe the contract for the venue that I want to book, or any information about something concerning the date, for instance. The activity log will show me everything that has happened for that particular row. So I'm going to click out of this. The next thing we want to do is add a venue. So we can add a conversation for that venue as well. So an update can be anything you want it to be. Maybe you want a 500 seater capacity for that particular venue. In order to make this someone's responsibility, you can add someone. So when you mention someone, you can say everyone on this board, everyone on this task, everyone on this workspace, or you can just make it for one person. So I can say at Sandra, and whoever it is that bears the name Sandra will populate, and I can put it here and update. So that means this particular update has been scheduled for Sandra. Sandra is going to receive a notification saying that there's an update for this particular row and can respond to it. So other things that can happen is that it can be liked, you can use an emoji, or can reply to this and say noted. Okay, so that's just something that can happen as part of monday.com. Other columns that can be put as well is a status column. The status column has, of course, the status of whatever is on this particular row. If you want to work on the status column, you can decide to keep things the way they are, or you can change it. To do so, you click on the ellipsis beside status, and you can rename the column. You can change the column type, and you can do all of this that are part of these options. You can also click on settings to customize and edit the status column as well. The status shows what the status of that particular row is, and monday.com has given us a bunch of options available. So you have working on it, done. You can always add a status by clicking on the particular row just under status, and you can decide whichever of the statuses you want to use. In this case, I can make this stock. If I decide that this is not the language I want to use, I can go to this ellipsis over here, go under settings, and customize status column. I can create a new label, so I can say under review, for instance. With under review, I can choose what I want the color to be. So I want a situation where if someone needs to approve something, I can choose my own color. In this case, I've made it purple. I can decide that I don't like stock, so I can say need help as my own status. Instead of done, I can decide that I want it to be complete. So you can make it whatever you want. It's very intuitive and very flexible for you to work on it. Instead of working on it, we can say in progress. So it depends on what you want to do. Now that all that is done, the next time we want to select a column, we know that it's going to have one of the options that we decided on. If we want to add a new column, we can go ahead to click on this button, the plus sign here, and you can see a group of options available. So the essential items are status, people, date, and the rest. You can have other columns that are here as well. Something we can do is to add a numbers column. So we want to determine what each of these items will cost. So when we add that numbers column, we can go ahead to change the column name. So we can make it cost. So we say estimated cost. And then we can decide to add another column, still make it a numbers column. And for this particular one, we can say real cost. It's very flexible. You can decide to do whatever you want. So in this case, we have an estimated column and we have a real cost column. So in this case, we can impute data. So if we estimate that the select date might not cost us anything, but maybe the venue is $4,000, and we found out that the real cost after we finished discussing with them is 3,500. So we've saved ourselves $500. So we can see a bunch of options available here as well. So we can go ahead to customize the numbers column just like we've done in the past. Something else I like as part of the column is we have a formula column. So this formula column is an opportunity for you to include formulas as part of your monday.com board. So for this particular column, I can decide that I want to know what the variance is between my estimated cost and my real cost. One thing we can also do is drag and drop a column, take it wherever we want it to be, and the blue mark will tell us exactly where it's going. So let me drop it just after my real cost because I'm going to be doing some calculations. So instead of formula, I'm going to call that column variance. So for the variance, I want to know what the difference is in cost automatically rather than me doing the calculation all the time. Since I want to calculate what the variance is, I'm going to go ahead to click on this plus sign right under variance. I'm going to go to the functions first and search for minus, see the bunch of options available. When I click on minus, I see that it tells me to find the difference of two numbers. That's the definition. So I have to choose what those two numbers are. In this case, I'm going to choose the columns. So I'll scroll back up and go under columns. Under columns, what are the two numbers that I want for it to minus? So I'm going to do estimated cost, comma, real cost. So these are the two costs I wanted to minus for me. And then I say set formula. In this case, what monday.com is going to do is calculate what the difference is. So I was supposed to spend 4,000 and I ended up spending 3,500. So I now have $500. So I have a lot of money left. So the same thing can apply to these other places as well. So if I have 5,000 here and I go ahead to spend 5,500, it means my variance is minus 500 and I thought I had 500. Oh well, see how a project can go. So you can do the same thing for the other options you have available. You can always add the columns and you can see all the columns that we have available. If you don't want to see a particular column, you can go to this hide icon right here and you can decide on which of these particular columns you want to hide or show. In this case, I don't want to see the file column at this time, so I can go ahead to remove that. I also don't want to see the person column, so I can go ahead to remove it. If you decide in the future that you want to see that column, you can come back there and then include the column you want to see as well. So that's that. In this particular case, if we decide that, for instance, there's a particular part of the group that we want to move to another group, say, for instance, we feel like maybe security is something that we should have planned pre-event. It's not something that should be part of the event proper. What we can do is we can just drag and drop it inside of that particular group. What you notice is that it was purple before and now is blue. So it takes on the color and the characteristics of the new group that you've put it under. And then you can decide to change the status as well and go from there. Another thing that I wanted to point out is that apart from all these items that you have available, if you decide that you want to add other tasks, so an example will be talking about food as a particular event. There are different things that I could possibly do on the food. So what I can do is I can expand this particular food item to include sub items. So in this case, I can see that my sub item is right under my food item. So what's something that can possibly be under the food item? An example will be book a caterer. So that's something I need to do. I'm going to click out of it and I see that it has automatically added an option for me to add a new sub item. Another thing we can do is get clearance certificate. from the ministry. So whichever ministry is responsible for food handling in wherever you're going to hold the event, that's something that you can do under food as well. So as you can see, we're adding different sub items under this item. If you go ahead to bring that up, you see that if it's not expanded, you can still see that there are two sub items under the food items. Something else I wanted to point out is that the sub items also have the ability for you to create columns for them. So in this case, as you can see, the status is here. So I can say I've already booked the caterer, but I'm working on getting the clearance certificate. So you see that this is done and this is working on it. But as you can see, my column here still says need help, even if those columns here say done and working on it. What do we do to ensure that when this columns update, this column can update as well? I'll show you an example. If everything under the food column, all the sub items under the food column change. So in this case, if I'm done with getting the clearance and I'm done with the caterer, this particular status still stays the same, even if every sub item has been done. How do we make sure that after the statuses of all of the sub items are done, this changes? We can do that with something called automation. To do that, we're going to use the automate button. If we go into automate, we're going to have a lot of options available to us to automate our board. In this case, we can see that we've defaulted to the automation center. For this particular board, all the automations that we have will be under this board. We can see that by default, there's one that has been pre-made. So it says when date arrives, notify item subscribers. So that particular automation is done. We can decide to add a new automation. To do that, we click on this button, add new automation. This automation means when something happens, then you do this. Let's go back because I want to show you something else. Under the automation center, you can see different options that are available. So the basic automations are things like when an item is created, assign creator as person. You can choose which items will have particular people, or when the status changes to something, notify someone, or when date arrives, notify someone. You can use this in terms of if you have someone that is overseeing your project or is managing your project and you want to notify them when the deadline has arrived. That's an example of the automation you can use. So you have a lot of automations available, some of them that have to do with integrations in monday.com as well. In this particular case, we want a situation where when the status of the sub items changes, the main item will change as well. We don't know where to get that, so let's just search. So I'm going to search for sub items. So as you can see, my sub items has search has narrowed down my search for my status change to this. So it says when all sub items of an item have the status of something, change the item status to something. So I'm going to add that to the board. When all sub items of an item have the status, I'm going to click on that. So the sub item status are all done. We'll change the item's status to complete. And then we add it to board. So we see that we now have two automations and both of them are on. If we want to put off the automation, we can go ahead to click on this particular button and it will put off that automation, but we don't want to do that. So let's just leave that on as well. This is the automation that we created. As you can see, it was created by me and updated just now. So we'll go ahead to close this and now we're back on our page. So let's just assume that this was still on working on it. And now that we've created our automation, let's make this done and see what happens. So right there, you can see that the food status has changed to complete. Something else I wanted to point out as well is one of the columns that I didn't talk about before, and that is the dependency column. For the dependency column, when you click on this particular box, you have it right here, dependency. Dependency is not available for every plan. It's available for just the pro plans. To choose the dependency mode, it means you can use flexible, strict, or no action. What this means is that if you change the date of a particular task, for instance, you want a situation where the dependencies with that particular task will shift according to the adjustment you've just made. You can make it strict, you can do no action, but in this case, we want to make it flexible. Flexible meaning that, of course, we don't want any overlap. So the items have to shift according to whatever the changes are that we've made. So of course we're going to go with the date column and we're going to say save. So that's what will happen to our dependency column. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add a dependency. Let's assume that the only time we can actually start security or discuss security is if we've booked a venue. Because when we call the security company or the personnel, we have to tell them what venue, we have to tell them how many people we're expecting and all of that in order for them to create a more realistic quote for us. So to choose the dependency, we click on the plus sign. The dependency we have is for the venue, and we can decide on which kind of dependency we want. Is it a finish to start, start to start, finish to finish, or start to finish? In this case, we're going to make it a finish to start dependency, which is the default anyway, and we're going to click out of it. In this case, what we've seen now is that venue is now a dependency for security. So whenever you're looking at this board, you see that venue is a dependency. You can always add other dependencies as well by using the plus button. Another thing I really like monday.com for are the integrations. So as you can see right at the top, you can see the common integrations that we have. You can see Slack, you can see Gmail. So integrations are what will make your work with monday.com a little bit easier. People work with different software across board. You have uh, Google Workspace, Jira, LinkedIn, Asana, and other options that people work with as well. So the stack that people use to do their work is quite a lot. So for you to be able to work in tandem with your other apps, monday.com has made it pretty easy for you to collaborate with others and with your other software as well. So this is a suite of all the integration apps that they have available, and you can also automate your workflow to make sure that everything that has to do with your work is fluid. So that's something I wanted to point out as well. So for you to do that, you click on this integrate and then you go ahead to create the automation. So for instance, if I decide to do Gmail as an example, these are all the automations that can happen. So when a column changes, for instance, send an email to a particular person. So just like we did the former automation, I can add it to my board, but I have to connect Gmail login first, and then when it's connected, I can go ahead to create that automation. Another thing that I wanted to point out is the filter button. You can actually filter by anything on monday.com. In this case, I can filter by me. So I want to see what all the work is that has been assigned to me, for instance. So if you go ahead to use that filter, you can see that uh, this is an example of what I have available. So if I have other things assigned to me, you'll see it under here as well. So this is it. I can save this particular option as a new view. So save to this view if I want to save it. So that means whenever I want to see what work has been scheduled for me, I go under this table view and I'll be able to see what I have available as part of my work. If I don't want to see my work from this particular view, what I can do as well is go under my work that you have on the left hand pane, and you will see all the work that has been assigned to me in the workspace that we are in right now. So as you can see, for this week, I have this available, something I need to do for pre-event for this particular work. And if you scroll down, you see for other projects as well. Talking about views, you can choose to view your board in different ways. To do so, you can add a view using the plus button here. If I go ahead to click that, I can look at this particular board on a table view, a Gantt view, chart view, calendar view, and the like. All these views are not available on all the plans. For the basic plan, you have just one or two of them. In this case, I can decide that I want to look at this as a Kanban view. If I decide to add a Kanban view, I'm going to be looking at this in terms of my boards. So it's going to be in progress, under review, need help, complete. So if a particular task has been done, I can move it as part of my board to the complete. If I need help with something, I can also move it as well to maybe need help. So this is the Kanban view. To collaborate with others, you can use this button on the top right hand corner, as we said, and you can invite members from your team. You can use the email addresses. You can decide that these members can be members of your team, or they can have only read only access to view your board. When you go ahead to click on invite, it's going to send them a notification by email for them to join this board. If you decide that this board is something you're going to be using quite often, if you know that maybe in this particular example, you work in an event management company and you're going to be using this particular board style to do most of your events, what you can do is save this particular board as a template. To do so, you can use the ellipsis on the right hand corner here, go under more actions, and you can save this particular board as a template, or you can duplicate the board if you're ready to work on the other ones and create a new name. You can also do the same thing on the left hand corner where you have the board name. Click on the ellipsis and you can decide to do all of these actions on the board. So in this case, you can save as a template to use in the future, or you can duplicate the board. If we go ahead to duplicate the board, we can decide to call it any other name we want. So in this new event, we can decide that this particular board should be called um, product management product management conference. So we can decide to keep the structure only, the structure and the items, and the structure, items, and updates. In this case, I'm going to do structure and items. I can keep the board subscribers if it's the same people working on it. But if there are going to be different people working on this particular board, then I can just go ahead to say duplicate. What will happen is that it's going to duplicate the board, and then you're now going to have another board that is a product management conference with the same functionalities that you had before, so you don't need to create it from scratch. So that's an advantage as well. I hope this video has given you a brief overview of what monday.com can do. You can go ahead to get a free trial and play around with it. If there's something that you discovered or something I didn't cover in the video, please comment down and I'll be able to talk about it or communicate with you about it. This video doesn't cover every single thing on monday.com. Some of the things were out of scope for this video. I wanted to keep it very simple just to give you an overview of what monday.com has to offer. I hope you enjoyed the video. Until next time, don't forget to click the notification bell so you'll be the first to know if I post a new video. Don't forget to like, to subscribe, and to comment as well. Have a wonderful day. See you next time.